This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's A Month of Service presentation of Sealing Juvenile Records. My name is Nia Murray. I am the Programs Coordinator with Neighborhood Recovery Community Development Corporation, and we are one of the partners in the A Month of Service collaboration. Also included is the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods, and joining us today is Ms. Myra Hippolyte. Also, our presenting partners joining us today, Houston Volunteer Lawyers, and we have with us today Ms. Mari Carmen Dollar. And on behalf of the Houston Bar Association, who's one of our partners presenting today, is the University of Law Center representative, Ms. Gracia Hendrickson. But also included in the partnership is the Earl Carl Institute, Harris County Appraisal District, Harris Central Appraisal District, sorry, they just changed their name, and the Harris County Tax Assessor Collector's Office. And together we make up A Month of Service. And Bailey says to tell everybody hello too while she's barking in the background.
Bailey.
Okay. With that being said, again, we want to welcome you all on behalf of A Month of Service. And basically what A Month of Service is a collaboration of these 8 different organizations that come together on a monthly basis and offer a variety of different workshops, presentations, resources, and information relative to asset building, asset protection, maintaining of generational wealth, and community empowerment. And as part of that community empowerment series, we offer a variety of different legal type presentations in a variety of different topics that are pertinent to the community, that a lot of people have questions about, that a lot of folks don't know where to go to get particular resources or information or to find out how to do certain things and what their options are and what their rights are. So we wanted to create a larger impact, which is why we decided to come together and provide these workshops to everyone on a monthly basis. We used to be out in the community and actually have a designated neighborhood where we would be for an entire month, which is how we kind of came up with A Month of Service, and then go to a different neighborhood and do the exact same thing. But due to COVID, we've had to adjust and adapt and provide these resources on a virtual platform, which has been kind of good in itself, that it's allowed us to reach a whole lot more people throughout the state of Texas that are not aware of the laws that are applicable to them as well. So if you're joining us from a different area of the state, if you're watching us on Facebook, then know that the information that it is provided here is for educational purposes only, is not legal advice. However, the information that is covered here today is relative to the laws in the state of Texas and not just for Houston or Harris County or anything like that. In addition to that, I wanted to remind everybody that this is your opportunity to be as interactive as you like to be. Please feel free to ask whatever questions that you like. However, do keep in mind that we are recording the session, and we are also broadcasting live on our social media platform at Amos Houston TX on Facebook. So we ask that you try to keep your questions to be as general as you possibly can and not give any personal detailed information out there for everybody to actually have access to. So just kind of be reminded of that. Also, on behalf of the Houston Bar Association, if there are any attorneys that are joining us today, any of our legal presentations that we have where you see a course number, you have the opportunity to take advantage of free COE credits that are sponsored by the Houston Bar Associations that attorneys can take advantage of. So we encourage you guys to actually do that as well. So with that being said, I think we are ready to move on. I'd like for us to go ahead and introduce our partners and our presenters, and we will move right on into the presentation. Marty Coleman, we'll have you go right before Gracia so that Gracia can then move right on into the presentation. So Ms. Myra.
Thanks, Ms. Nia. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Mayor Sylvester Turner and Director Takasha Francis, we want to welcome you to the Month of Service program partnership. It's a partnership between 8 amazing partners. It's all about giving back free information to the Houston, Harris County, and come to find out, state of Texas and throughout the world, there are many participants, community leaders that are attending our virtual workshops for free. Guys, know that this partnership is all about giving you back free information that whenever you're going through a stressor in your life, you have all the information in front of you that you can make the right decisions. Many times we go through a stressor and we're wondering, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? What's the step? What's step 1, step 2, step 3? Well, now you have as much, well, we're trying to give you as much information as we can, that when you're going through a stressor, you don't have to have a heart attack or stress attack. Thank you so much. And Mari Carmen and Gracie, thank you guys. This information is outstanding. I am going to take a lot of notes because there's a lot of community leaders throughout Houston, Harris County that need this information. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Mari Carmen.
Hi, my name is Mari Carmen Dollar. I'm a supervising attorney at Houston Volunteer Lawyers. Houston Volunteer Lawyers is the pro bono arm of the Houston Bar Association, and we are providing legal services to low-income Harris County and surrounding county residents, and promoting volunteerism among the local bar. We provide a variety of services, from legal advice clinics to full representation, depending on the area of the legal area. We provide services in family law, wills, estates, probate, landlord-tenant, some consumer matters, tax, and of course, record sealing, including juvenile sealings and adult expunctions and non-disclosures. We work with the juvenile sealings. We work closely with JCAP, and Gracie is going to tell you a little bit more about that program. But we have an application for services online at legalhelphouston.org, O-R-G. And we also have places for attorneys to volunteer on that same website. So the website will serve both sides, the client and our volunteer attorneys. I'll be here to answer questions and assist Gracie, who is the one with all the information.
Okay, Gracia.
Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Gracia Cepeda Hendrickson. I go by Gracie, and I am the adjunct professor at the University of Houston Law Center. I'm a adjunct professor at the University of Houston Law Center and supervising attorney of the Juvenile Record Sealing Clinic. They're working with JCAP, the Juvenile and Children's Advocacy Project, and so yeah, let me get started with my presentation. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, while you're sharing your screen, I just want folks also to know that next Tuesday, we're going to be going over the expunging of adult criminal records. So this is a juvenile side, so we want to come back to the adult side for next week. So you guys join us for that.
And Nia, another thing is that the A Month of Service partners are pre-assessing for assistance for free or low-cost legal assistance. We will put the website on the chat so that everyone can apply online for free.
Okay. Go right ahead.
So I am sharing my screen.
Oh, you had it at first.
Okay, so you could see it. Let me try again.
Yes,
It's good.
Perfect. Okay. So again, my name is Gracie. I am very excited to be presenting to you all today on this topic. It's something that I'm very passionate about and that not many people are aware about. It's incredibly important, not only for people to know generally, but also for attorneys to know, how to handle these types of cases when they are presented with them. So again, thank you to our organizers for putting this event together, and thank you all attendees for being here. Again, quick disclaimer that this presentation is not legal advice and is for informational purposes only. If you have a specific legal issue that you're needing help with, please talk to an attorney. If it's a juvenile record sealing case that you're needing help with, you can certainly reach out to us at JCAP and or to the Houston Volunteer Lawyers, who also handle juvenile record sealing cases pro bono. Okay, so a quick note about JCAP. So JCAP stands for the Juvenile and Children's Advocacy Project or Program at the University of Houston Law Center. And it seeks to reduce juvenile delinquency and improve life outcomes for economically and socially disadvantaged youth through the provision of legal, educational, and social support services. JCAP's projects, in addition to juvenile record sealing, are juvenile representation and school discipline representation. So while this presentation will focus on juvenile record sealing, if you are needing assistance with any of these other projects that JCAP takes on, please reach out to us. The intake forms are all on our website at jcaptexas.org. So JCAP was created in January of 2015, and we have sealed so many juvenile records in that time. We partner with the Houston Bar Association and the Houston Volunteer Lawyers, a few firms here in Houston. We've trained so many attorneys to take these pro bono sealing cases, which is fantastic. We have so much help, and there's a lot of need in this area. So that's amazing. And JCAP is the only law school clinic to provide this pro bono record sealing at this time. So we take a lot of pride in that. Okay, so the governing statute for juvenile record sealings is Chapter 58, and it's in the Texas Family Code. The part of the statute that specifically deals with juvenile record sealing starts on Section 58.251. Okay, so who has a juvenile record? It's not showing me my notes, so I'll have to look at my notes here. So contrary to popular belief that only juveniles who were charged with an offense or who were placed in the Texas Juvenile Justice Detention Center have juvenile records, that's certainly not the case. That's false. Any child who has been in contact with the juvenile justice system, even if the case was dismissed, and even if no charges were filed, has a juvenile record. The disposition of the case does not matter, whether they were placed in a diversion program and they weren't charged with anything, whether they deferred prosecution, and ultimately the charge was non-suited, or if they received deferred adjudication and again, the case was dismissed, they still have a juvenile record. There's still a record, of the arrest, and this will remain in the child's record until the record is sealed. So again, anyone who has been in contact with the juvenile justice system, even if the case was dismissed and even if no charges were filed, and here's the part in the statute, regardless of whether the child's conduct was adjudicated, the child has a juvenile record with the Department of Public Safety and the FBI. And the child's juvenile record is a permanent record unless this record is sealed. So the record begins at the time the child is detained or taken into custody. And this is, the processing procedure typically includes fingerprinting the child, which will go into what's called AFIS, the Automated Fingerprint Identification System. Therefore, again, no charges are necessary to create a record. And the official juvenile record is in JJIS, which is the Juvenile Justice Information System, which will include a lot of, identifying information of the child's name, contact information, physical description, and then information about the offense, the conduct for which the child was taken into custody, the fingerprint, information, and many other identifying information. And then this also gets reported to the NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, which is operated by the FBI. So at that point, the information is disseminated at a federal level. And again, this is even if the child was placed in a diversion program where, you know, they may have been put in a 90-day diversion program and given probation. And in that time, if, you know, if they didn't get in any trouble, then no charges were actually filed against them. Well, even at that point, because the child was still taken in for custody and had processing done, and so all this information will already be out there. They will already have a record. So for my fellow attorneys, if you're representing a child on a case and negotiate, you know, a deferred adjudication, or say the case is non-suited outright, the client needs to be notified that despite this deferred adjudication or non-suit, they have to seal their juvenile record. Otherwise, this will remain, you know, with them for the rest of their lives, and certainly could have many issues in their future. Yeah, and I have a quick story here where, you know, and it just goes along with that even if the juvenile's not actually charged with anything, they're placed on deferred, they're placed on a diversion program years after an employer, you know, finds out about it through a background check. So it needs to actually be sealed in order to be removed from the record. Okay, so each juvenile record is held by at least 5 state agencies and more in some circumstances. The Harris County Juvenile Probation Department, HCJPD, the DA's office, DPS through TCIC, the Harris County Sheriff's Office. The arresting agency will have a, you know, copy as well. And the police are required to notify schools. So the schools and school districts also have, you know, a copy of this record. And then DFPS, if the child is involved in foster care. TJJD, if the child is committed to detention after being adjudicated. So the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, and then NCIC, again, that FBI agency. So who has access to these juvenile records? So juvenile records are not public, they are confidential. The records and files, including information from which a record could be generated, are all confidential and may only be shared if specifically authorized by law. However, by law, so many agencies have access to a juvenile record, and even some employers and schools and the military. So, so here's, you know, a list of agencies that'll still have access to, and other entities who will still have access to this juvenile record, even if it's confidential. So, you know, they're not public, they're confidential, but police, prosecutors, probation officers, DFPS, the Department of Juvenile Justice, judges, court employees, of course, and some employers, schools, and the military. So, you know, as you can imagine, the collateral consequences can be very detrimental for someone who has a juvenile record. So one of the biggest collateral consequence of having a juvenile record is not being able to obtain employment. A record can prevent clients from gaining employment and even from securing promotions. And we've seen this, you know, plenty of times with clients who come to us of, you know, I applied for this job and I didn't get it. And this, you know, they ran a background check and apparently I have a juvenile record, like what's going on? I thought this was going to be automatically sealed. So more on that automatic sealing later, but yes, employment is, you know, one of the biggest collateral consequences of having a juvenile record. Okay, sorry. Okay, and a delinquency adjudication can stop someone from becoming any number of registered, licensed, or certified professions, including nursing, teaching, accounting, law, electricians, childcare. So, again, they'll come up, your juvenile record will come up in a background check, and especially for these licensed professions who do more thorough background checks. So yes, that's a huge collateral consequence. Delinquency can demonstrate poor character on applications for licenses and certifications. So, okay, next. And unfortunately, employment not requiring licensing can also be affected. So here's a quick story of a client that came to us that he had applied for a job at HEB and was not hired because of his juvenile record, and it was to do warehouse work. So this is just to give you an idea of how many employers can actually access this juvenile record, even if it's confidential, right? Even if it's not public. So that was an interesting find for us, honestly. We hadn't had a client who this is the type of job that he was applying for, and that was and that his juvenile record prevented him from getting that job, because HEB actually had was able to access that juvenile record. Okay, and so the military, so another collateral consequence, a delinquency adjudication can hurt one's chances of joining the military, and this is actually true even when the case has been sealed or expunged. Unfortunately, the military just kind of has its own rules, and they have a lot of requirements. So they can ask to see copies of important documents related to the adjudication. So as an advocate, make sure that you're explaining this to your client, and obtain copies of the adjudication before the record is sealed if your client may be interested in joining. So if you come to us for help with sealing your record, or even if you go to someone else, make sure that you let them know that you're interested in joining the military if you are, because you need to obtain all of the documents relating to the offense before you ask the court to seal. Once you ask the court to seal, essentially all the records are erased from any agency that had a record of this, if you're a juvenile offense, arrest, and all of that. And so then it becomes really hard to obtain these records or these copies to provide to the military if they do, ask to see those. So if you do, plan on joining the military and you do have a juvenile record, it's really important that you let whoever it is that you go to for help, you let them know that you do want to join the military, and that so that it can be handled appropriately. Okay, so housing is another way that people can be affected with a juvenile record. It's another collateral consequence. So a juvenile record can prohibit you from receiving public benefits such as housing. Families can be evicted from Section 8 housing if a family member is charged with a juvenile offense, even if there's no adjudicatory hearing. So even if they're just, as long as they're charged, that's it. They're no longer able to obtain this public benefit. And then surprisingly, also in civil cases, and I say surprisingly because we had a client come to us where she was going through a divorce, and she was trying to get custody of her child, and her, her juvenile record came up, and because of that, that was causing issues for her to be able to obtain custody of her child. So yeah, even in civil cases, it can affect, this record can affect you. And so just a bit more on our clients, situations that we've encountered, that clients have come to us with, and before we help them seal their records. So we had another client who had gone her whole life without a problem. She came to us at the age of 26 when she wanted to become a resident of another country, and for that she needed a clean FBI background check. And she had a juvenile offense, and she knew about this, but it had never been an issue for her getting any other employment. But at this point, when she was trying to become a resident of another country, and that she needed this clean FBI background check, well, when she submitted this request and she received her background check, it came back with her juvenile offense information, which was shocking to her because, she thought that this was supposed to be automatically sealed. And again, more on that later. A lot of people have that misconception, so we'll go into that. She also said that every time that she would travel internationally, when she returned, she would always be referred for a very lengthy secondary inspection, and she just could not figure out why that was happening. And so when she saw, her FBI background check, it made a bit more sense, but not entirely, because the background check showed, it said sealed, and then proceeded to show the offense that she had been arrested for. So she came to us asking, well, wasn't this, it seems like this is already sealed, so why is it coming up as, why are they still able to see the offense? So the reason why it came out sealed is because of what we already talked about, that juvenile records are confidential. So that was actually the FBI's way of notating that this was confidential information, but it still proceeded to disclose, the offense, and the information about the arrest, who the arresting agency was, the offense. However, what it failed to provide was that this was a juvenile offense, that this had happened, a long time ago, and it failed to provide the disposition of the case. So to the FBI, it seemed, like for all they knew, it could have been an adult case. And she, was sentenced to serve time and at TJJD, or so yeah, that was very surprising. And that's one of the more memorable clients that we've had, because, the background check, when it came back, it said sealed, but it actually had not been sealed. It was just notating that it was confidential, but then it proceeded to disclose everything, and not specify that this was a juvenile offense, and not specify the disposition. So for all, the FBI or anyone else doing background checks, for all they know, this again was an adult case, and the person was sentenced and didn't actually successfully complete that time. Okay, so what do juvenile records look like in background checks? So I already talked a little bit about what our experience was with that FBI background check. So here's another example. This is for a securities broker, where, let's see, so they do have more extensive background checks, and they are required to disclose a lot more. But again, as you can see, This is for a juvenile offense. And as you can see, nowhere in this, background disclosure sheet, nowhere does it say that this was a juvenile offense. It doesn't say the disposition. So for all the employer knows, this could have well been an adult case, and who knows the disposition. Did they successfully complete whatever they were, was it probation? Did they get sentenced? Did they successfully complete any of that? We don't know. So again, very detrimental, collateral consequences here. Okay, so promised that I would talk about juvenile records automatically going away or automatically being sealed. So we get this issue a lot with our clients. A lot of them are under the impression that their juvenile record was automatically going to go away. So do juvenile records automatically go away? Yes and no. The law allows for them to, but in reality, this doesn't actually happen, or at least we haven't come across a case where our client says, well, I was told that this would be automatically sealed, and that it actually had been sealed once we took the case on. So the best practice is for you to take action and petition the court to seal your record. So reach out to us and we'll help you seal your juvenile record for free. And that could either be by reaching out again to JCAP or the Houston volunteer lawyers who also provide this pro bono. So under, and this is one of the ways I guess that the statute provides that a juvenile record could automatically go away. So under section 58.2551, juvenile court on the court's own motion and without a hearing shall immediately order the sealing of all records related to the alleged conduct if the court enters a finding that the allegations are not true, so that the allegations for which the juvenile was taken into custody are not true. And again, this would be on the court's own motion without a hearing. So, so that there are provisions in the statute that allow for juvenile records to automatically go away, but again, in the cases that we've seen, this rarely happens. So another section in the statute that would allow for this is 58.263, where it allows for the destruction of records if there's no probable cause. So the court shall order the destruction of the records if a determination is made that no probable cause exists to believe that the child engaged in that conduct for which they were brought in. And then the specific provision for automatic sealing is 58.253. And this is for delinquent conduct, and this is how it's supposed to work. So it specifies that for delinquent conduct, you qualify for automatic sealing of your juvenile record at age 19, with some exceptions. So you would have to be at least 19 years of age, have no felony adjudication, you don't have any pending delinquent conduct matters, you have not been transferred by a juvenile court to a criminal court to be treated as an adult, and you has not been as an adult been convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor punishable by confinement in jail, and you don't have any pending charges as an adult for a felony or a misdemeanor punishable by confinement in jail. So again, you know, some counties say that this process does work, but in, you know, in at least in every county that we've worked with and the clients that we have, you know, when clients come and ask us to check if their record has already been sealed because it was supposed to automatically go away, this wasn't, you know, we never find that it was actually sealed. And so we actually have to petition the court to have the record sealed. And so, you know, just other issues with this being, you know, with the statute allowing for automatic sealing at age 19, most people are going to need their record sealed before, excuse me, before the age of 19. And then felony adjudications are not eligible for automatic sealing. They must file an application to try and seal. So again, there's no guarantee that it'll actually happen for your client, fellow attorneys. So do not advise them that it will. The best practice is to petition the juvenile court for sealing of records as soon as they're eligible. And so here's the section of the statute that talks about eligibility for sealing by application. 58.256 of the Texas Family Code. So it requires that the child be 17 or older, or that at least 1 year has elapsed from the time that they successfully completed probation or whatever it was that they, you know, that they were given. And this is for both felonies and misdemeanors. They are eligible for sealing by application. However, the cases that are not eligible for sealing by application, you know, and that wouldn't be eligible for sealing, unfortunately, are any determinate sentences, meaning that if the child was adjudicated delinquent and then given a fixed period of time to serve in the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, those don't qualify at this time for sealing by application. And there was recently, you know, a bill that would provide a lot of hope for, you know, for those who have a record and they received a determinate sentence. But unfortunately, that bill did not pass all the way through. It was ultimately vetoed by the governor back in 2021. And so we are hoping that, you know, there will be new legislation to help with this. So others who are not eligible for sealing by application are those with an adjudication of habitual felony conduct. So those are repeat felony offenders. You also can't be required to register as a sex offender. So anyone who you know, has committed an offense and they were required to register as a sex offender, they do not, they're not eligible for sealing by application. No adult felony convictions. You can't have any pending juvenile or adult matters, and you can't be currently in TJJD or other secure correctional facility. So let's say that, you know, you come to us because you're worried, you know, you have a juvenile record, but you're currently in TJJD, then, you know, wait out that period or, you know, until you're done, and then we'll see if you're eligible to have your record sealed. So it's not that just because you are currently in you know, the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, that means that you will forever be barred and that you can't do anything. So, you know, we have clients come back to us after they've successfully completed, you know, whatever they were given, and then we check if they're eligible then, and then move forward with helping them seal their record if, if we can help them. Oh, and another thing, the eligibility for sealing by application is per offense. So if you have, so it wouldn't be, your record as a whole. So it's per offense. If you have multiple juvenile offenses, they could potentially all be sealed as long as they meet, these requirements of the statute. They would each require an application for sealing, and then you would get an order sealing each one of those if the judge would grant it. So, again, determinate sentences, they're not eligible for sealing their record by application. And so, that's just the unfortunate reality right now. Again, we are hoping for some legislation in the future that can help with this. So the bill that I was talking about, that would have allowed for a hearing on an application for sealing for determinate sentences that were not transferred to adult criminal court to determine whether, ordering the record sealed was in the best interest of the person and of justice. But again, this made it out of the House committee and then even made it out of the Senate, but got vetoed by the governor. So we're hoping for some legislation in the future that will help with these cases as well. And just very quickly, and if you're not sure, if you received a determinate sentence, or if you're not sure, what exactly the disposition of your case was, please, reach out to us, and we are more than happy to look into your specific case and determine if you're eligible for sealing, and then actually move forward with sealing your record, if you are eligible. So we've had a lot of clients confuse juvenile record sealings with adult, specifically adult non-disclosures, which, as you can see, are also referred to as sealings. So these are not the same thing. So non-disclosures, also referred to as sealings, those are for adults, adult criminal records, whereas the juvenile record sealings, those are for your juvenile offenses. And sealing is just the term that that was assigned to them, I guess. And it doesn't, it doesn't mean that, so don't get them confused with adult record sealings, adult non-disclosures, and juvenile record sealings. And we've also had clients come to us, well, I have a juvenile record, but can I expunge it instead of have it sealed? Well, there's no such thing. You can't expunge a juvenile record. The only thing that you can do is seal it, but the sealing has the same effect as an adult expunction. So it would, erase everything. And once the judge would order your record to be sealed, you can legally deny that, that ever existed. You can check no criminal record on, employment applications and all of that. So, there's a much broader eligibility for juvenile record sealings than adult expunctions and non-disclosure. So that is awesome, because we can help so many more, people with this, so many more people who have a juvenile record offense. So for adult expunctions, these are, those who are eligible for these are generally dismissed cases or not guilty cases. And for adult non-disclosures, or also called sealings, these are generally for those who received deferred adjudications. Okay, so the actions taken to get the granted sealing order. So you would again, you would petition the court via your attorney to seal your juvenile record, and again, this is per offense. And the sealing here, then you would schedule a sealing hearing, which is discretionary by the judge. So and all of these juvenile record sealings by application, all of these are discretionary. So the judge can, choose to grant them or not. It's not mandated that they do grant them. So the hearing is also discretionary. So a judge can decide per the statute to not have a hearing and just order your juvenile record sealed, which we have had that a lot. So, and if it is granted, then your sealing order is signed by the judge. And then what happens is your attorney will then send the signed sealing orders to all the agencies who could hold these records. So the agencies that we were talking about earlier would be, if, for example, if you have an offense here in Harris County and you're sealing a juvenile offense here in Harris County, well, then you would send it to at least those 5 agencies that we talked about earlier, the Harris County Juvenile Probation Department, the arresting agency, Harris County Sheriff's Office, DPS, and I'm missing one more. So that, that 5th one that we were talking about, and you could also need to, you would also need to send it to the schools, school district, because as we talked about earlier, the police are required to report this to your school district. So we would also send that sealing order to your school district, DFPS if the child was in foster care, and other agencies that you may have been in contact with at that time and who could have a record of this. TJJD, the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, if you were committed to serve some sort of time there. And then once the agencies receive this sealing order, they have 61 days to seal your record. So, after those 61 days, you are legally entitled to, you can legally deny that this ever occurred with any employment applications, housing, school, you name it. So again, it has the effect of an adult expunction. So on entry of the sealing order, all adjudications relating to the person are vacated and the proceedings are dismissed and treated for all purposes as though the proceedings had never occurred. The individual, again, can legally deny any previous involvement with any juvenile or criminal proceeding and go forward as if the offense had never occurred. And there is a federal records caveat, which we will talk about shortly. So again, these orders are very comprehensive and effective. After those 61 days, the agencies must respond to anyone inquiring about you that no records exist on that individual. And once the record is sealed, he or she, a person's record is sealed, he or she is not required to state in any proceeding or in any application for employment, licensing, admissions, housing, or other public or private benefit that the person has been the subject of a juvenile matter, subject to, again, that note about federal records, which are coming up, I believe, in the next slide. Yeah, so this is, again, the sealing records would be treated as vacated. And here's the, part of the statute, the specific part of the statute that talks about all that. So again, the fact that the records once existed, or the person's denial of the existence, this cannot be used, your denial of the existence of these records cannot be used against the person in any matter, including in a perjury prosecution, civil proceeding, application process for licensing, admission, employment, or housing. And you cannot waive this right to this protected status of the records. So it's not waivable in by mistake or in any way. You can't waive the fact that you can, after you've had your record sealed, that you can legally deny that all of this happened. So note about the federal records exception. So for most purposes, employment, housing, other applications, et cetera, that we just talked about, once your record is sealed, you will be legally able to deny that the offense ever occurred. However, one main exception to having that right to deny this incident occurred is the federal government. If you're applying for the military or a federal job, or if you're involved in an immigration proceeding, you must disclose that you have a sealed juvenile record. So you don't, have to say, oh, well, I have a juvenile offense and all this stuff. You'll say I have a sealed juvenile record, and they may or may not ask you for more information about the offense. And so one of the reasons why, the federal government is an exception is that juvenile record sealing orders are judge issued orders here in the state of Texas, if your record is here, which state agencies have to comply with, but they have no jurisdiction in the federal realm. So federal agencies can choose to comply with this order or not. And that's why, when dealing with the federal government, you need to disclose that you have a sealed juvenile record, and they may choose to ask you for more information about that offense. And then the military, again, they have just their very specific rules for enlisting, and every branch has its own set of rules and who they are able to take on and enlist. So it's best to, for those, again, thinking of joining or wanting to join the military in the future and you have a juvenile offense, it's always best to confer with a military recruiter about this. And again, before you go through with sealing your record, you want to have copies of everything relating to the offense. The arrest records, who is the arresting agency, disposition of your case, were you charged with an offense or not, all of that, because they will ask about that. And they'll ask to see, what exactly happened. So it's best to have those records before. That way you don't seal your juvenile offense, your juvenile record, and then after you go to the military and you're like, well, I'm wanting to enlist, and then they want to see those copies, and it's going to be really hard to obtain them after they've been sealed. You could, but it'll just save you a lot of time and a headache. And then if you are wanting to apply for some sort of immigration benefit, or if you're wanting to, move to another country or something like that, it's always best to confer with an immigration attorney first if you do have a juvenile record. And let them obtain, the record or the records or documents that they will be needing for whatever benefit it is that you're asking. And again, the only thing you would need to say is that you do have a sealed juvenile record, but you may be asked to provide more information, and so it's always best to have those records before the fact, before you seal. And a note about adult record sealing, which is what we talked about earlier, non-disclosures. They're also referred to as sealings, but these are not the same as juvenile record sealings, and don't get them confused. Although it's a common, a common mistake that we get all the time with our clients, just because, I mean, I'm sure that, if you go onto Google and you type, record sealing, I'm pretty sure that this is what comes up. And so, yeah, so an adult non-disclosure is not, although it's also referred to as a sealing, it's not the same, and it's also not as effective as a juvenile record sealing, as I had mentioned. That juvenile record sealings have the same effect as an expunction, and so they are a lot more comprehensive and effective in getting rid of all those, of all that record, all those documents. So an adult non-disclosure, just really quickly, the information can still be seen by law enforcement, state licensing, regulatory agencies, and all these other entities, and you cannot deny this offense under oath. And this is not the case for juvenile record sealing, which can no longer be seen by any of these agencies and can be denied under oath. So the general timeline for sealing a record, it's actually pretty quick. So at JCAP and, specifically in the juvenile record sealing clinic, I start, at the start of the semester for law school at UH Law, I'll typically assign students some juvenile record sealing cases, and they'll be able to take the case from start to finish to getting the order of, ordering sealing of these records by the end of the semester. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, which is good. It's generally about 3 months from the meeting, of the client until the record is completely sealed. So just a general timeline here, you would meet with the client, draft your pleadings, the application. The attorney would file the pleading, set the hearing, which may happen or may not. Again, the judge may just choose to order the record sealed without having a hearing. And then after we get that signed order from the judge, then we serve the agencies with notice of this sealing order, and then the agencies have 61 days to comply with that sealing. So from the time that we send the order, signed by the judge to the agencies, once they receive that, that's when the 61-day clock starts. So, if after those 61 days, you're still having an issue, or you go and apply for, some employment or housing, and you're denied, you can literally pull up your order, your order from the judge ordering this sealed, and ask, whatever agency it is who pulled up that record to comply with this order. Okay, so this is, the attorney procedure overview. So they would draft the application and proposed order, file the pleadings. This in Harris County, in the court where it was originally filed, and it could very well be in another county. I know we've taken cases from Fort Bend County and just surrounding counties. So it's also not limited to Harris County that we could help with. So yeah, so then you would serve the agencies, you'd file your pleading, schedule your hearing date, and then you would, once you receive that hearing date, you would serve agencies, who may have a record of this, at least those 5 agencies that I mentioned, and then more if it applies for that circumstance. And so you would serve these agencies with notice of the hearing. And so again, make sure that you have all the agencies listed there, as you don't want a situation where you missed an agency that you may have been in contact with, or maybe DFPS wasn't listed or TJJD wasn't listed as an agency. Well, they wouldn't receive notice of this, so how are they going to know to comply? So make sure to include all the agencies there and serve them with notice of the hearing. And then you would attend the hearing in juvenile court, or again, it could be granted without a hearing. If it's opposed by the district attorney, by the DA. So if it's opposed, then you would have to attend a hearing, and basically make an argument to the judge as to why your client's sealing should be granted. And then you would get the order, hopefully the granted sealing order. You would serve the agencies with this granted order, and then you would send the copy of the certified order to your client, and include it on include on the agency list. Best practice, so we always serve the agencies with the granted order and also provide a copy to the client so that they have. So for the hearing, any deferred prosecutions and most misdemeanor adjudications will likely not be opposed by the DA. So those are the ones that are more likely to be granted on submission. So those are not going to require a hearing. The judge will simply, order or sign the sealing order, and then the attorney can go pick up the order at some point after they have the certified copy. The ones that are that typically do get opposed and that do require a hearing are any felony adjudications. And so for the hearing, if you do have an opposed sealing from the DA, then there's just a little bit of what you could use for your argument and your evidentiary support. So you would mention that they're eligible to seal under the statute, that the time has passed since the closing of the case, they haven't gotten any further trouble, or that they are 17 or older. They haven't gotten into any further trouble. You would essentially follow the statute, those requirements of the statute. And then you would explain positive things that your client is doing in life. Do they have a job? Are they in school? Did they just start college? Have good grades? Are they in any sports? Have they received any sort of accolades, commendations? Are they participating in? Are they volunteering in the community? Taking care of family? Just any positive thing that the client is now doing in life, and how they've essentially been reformed from that and are doing a lot better. And then also explain your client's goals. Why does the client need this record sealed? Why is it necessary for them? Are they applying to college? Are they applying for financial aid? Do they want to join the military? Emphasize that having a juvenile record only makes it more difficult for that client to move forward and be productive in life. And then, provide evidentiary support in the form of support letters, report cards, client testimony, obviously. So for these hearings that are opposed, we do ask the client to come to the hearing. It's not required, but it's just a best practice. You know, it's just better for the judge to be able to see the client and ask them any questions if the judge does have questions, you know, and that they want to ensure that the client is doing a lot better, and that they're wanting to move forward from all of this, you know, and they want to have a productive life. And you know, any opportunities that the client has lost or missed out on because of this juvenile record, you know, bring that up too. They, you know, my client was wanting to apply for, I don't know, X scholarship, and they weren't able to because of this juvenile record. And this was for them to be able to go to college or something like that. So yeah, that's always really helpful. And so with that, we've reached the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for attending today, and, you know, listening to, you know, getting all this information for if you're, you know, generally just wanting to get more information on things, and maybe it may apply to you, maybe it doesn't, you know, and for my fellow attorneys who are here, you know, again, it's really important to get this information as well, just to know how to handle these types of cases. So yeah, if you have any questions, you know, after this presentation, and after whatever questions, you know, are asked, then feel free to email me. This is my email, gysabeda@cougarnet.uh.edu. If you want to, you know, reach out to us regarding being a potential client to help with sealing your juvenile record, then we do have an intake form on our JCAB website at www.jcabtexas.org. So you can also, you know, go there and fill out that intake form, and our other contact information is there as well on that website. So thank you.
I'd
Okay.
like to just add a little bit of information if I can. We work with JCAP. They, as she mentioned, as Gracie mentioned, they get cases that they provide to their students. They also reach out to us when they have more cases than their students can handle. Those cases come to us and we place them with volunteer attorneys. So if you're an attorney on this call and you're interested in taking one of these cases, we can help facilitate that kind of representation. We also do direct intake for juvenile sealing. So if this is something you're interested in, I put my contact information, my email, in the chat box, and I also put our application for those individuals who need assistance with juvenile sealings or adult expunctions and non-disclosures. And I also put the link for attorneys to come and review the cases on our website. We look to JCAP and Gracie as the experts in this field. Everything we know, we've learned from them, and look forward to a continued partnership working with them.
Yeah, likewise, Maria Carmen, thank you.
Okay. There weren't any questions that were put into the chat. However, there are a couple questions that I have.
Okay.
One is in regards to applying for your service. Is there an income requirement for someone that's interested in getting your assistance?
No,
No income.
there isn't. No income requirement. Yeah. So you would just have to put your name, your date of birth. Are you needing help with sealing a juvenile record or an adult expunction? And then, you know, put your contact information, and that's it. You know, the intake form gets submitted to us, and we reach out to you.
Okay. And then what's generally the process from beginning to end? How long does it take from the time they actually apply with you guys until it's done? How long does that process take?
Yeah, so it really depends on, you know, when they're reaching out to us for help. So if they're reaching out to us like around the time where we're starting a semester, then it'll be fairly quickly. So we'll get their information, we'll send their information over to, and it's very basic information, essentially the full name of the person who is, needing help with sealing their juvenile record, and their date of birth. And then we send this information over to the Harris County Juvenile Probation Department. So we also partner with them, and they do all our background checks and eligibility checks. And so once they've done that, they confirm that, this person's eligible, and they send us everything that, everything that we need to be able to seal their record. They send us all the information that we'll be needing. So again, it really depends. So if you reach out to us, like in, January, December, we're getting started. We're getting ready to start that new semester, late January. So we'll be able to potentially start to help you with your case right then and there with that semester, when that semester starts. And then it'll be, from January or February up until the semester ends, and you'll hopefully have your signed sealing order at the end. And if we don't have, if we're not in the middle of us, or we're not about to start a new semester, then we do reach out to, as Mari Carmen said, the Houston volunteer lawyers who may have availability and be able to take on the case sooner than us. And we do have other firms that we partner with who also take these cases pro bono. So yeah, we do have a lot of help, which is great. And right now we have a few groups with different law firms who are literally just on standby waiting for new cases. So so it could be, rather quickly from the time that you reach out to us and I get that information confirming that you're eligible, probably around 1 to 2 weeks for the Harris County Juvenile Probation Department to do their background check. They send me, the confirmation that you're eligible, and I either take that case, assign it to one of the law students, or if we're in the middle of a semester and we can't, assign it to them because they're already working on their cases, well, then I could reach out to one of the firms or the Houston volunteer lawyers and assign it to them.
Can I ask a question real quick, Nia? A lot of people feel like sealing a juvenile record, it takes forever. But what you're telling us, it's an easy process.
Yeah.
It's not time consuming.
No.
So, I mean,
yeah,
anyone that has had a juvenile criminal has conducted a juvenile a crime when they were juvenile, they should at least attempt to get it sealed. It's
right,
not
exactly.
Or charged.
It's not that hard. It's not difficult.
It's not hard, and there's no charge to submitting an application also for sealing a juvenile record. Whereas, for an adult expunction non-disclosures, you do have a filing fee when you file it with the court. But for juvenile sealing applications, there's no fee. There's no fee, and we have these amazing attorneys who are always willing to, help and do these pro bono. So again, we get that confirmation of eligibility, and then the process starts, and it'll be about 3 months from when we, meet with you, file the application for sealing, and then get that order sealing the application, sealing the record by the judge at the end of like 3 months. And then from that point, there is the 61-day, period for the agencies to comply with that order. But the actual process of, being involved with the court and filing and getting that end order, it's around 3 months.
And even if they do not qualify, or they feel like, well, no, I did this, I did that, they should go ahead and apply. Who knows?
Yes. Even if they think they may not be eligible, reach out to us. Worst case, if you, like I said, if you have multiple offenses, some of those may qualify to be sealed. And then, if one doesn't qualify, but it won't come up as like a laundry list of things that you have if your background is checked. So it's always better to reach out. I mean,
Ask.
worst case, you know, we can't seal, but you tried.
How they say, a closed mouth don't get fed. If you don't ask, if you don't apply,
Exactly.
then you will never know, and that record will forever be there.
Exactly.
And I wanted to
Yeah.
emphasize again, it's regardless if you were actually adjudicated or convicted or whatever,
Yes.
and if cases were dismissed, you still have a juvenile record.
Yes. Yes. A lot of adults think that as well for, you know, their criminal records. They think, oh, well, my case was dismissed, I don't have anything. That is not true. You know, there's still a record of the arrest. So all of that will come up. All of that will come up. And for you know, for juvenile, it's from the time again that they were detained, they were brought in, processed, placed into custody. And again, they may have not been charged after that with anything. They may have not been adjudicated. They may have been placed in a diversion program and given 90 days, okay, 90-day community supervision, probation, and if nothing else happens, we won't charge you with anything. Even
you know,
then.
Sometimes some of those juvenile records hold the youth bondage, even the adult bondage to that record or that crime or that issue for years, even when they're adults. And
right.
I think it's so important that if you're watching this, this virtual workshop, you need to, and you know someone that had a juvenile did a record, go ahead and apply.
Right.
It doesn't hurt, but pass it on and let everyone, as many people as you know,
yes,
get educated in the process, because it's not that hard, number one, and it's not that time consuming.
No,
is there a
exactly.
time limit on when you can actually seal a juvenile record? Because some people may think, oh, I'm an adult now, that was back when I was a kid, and you know, it doesn't matter anymore, it doesn't count or whatever. Is there a time limit?
There is no time limit.
Okay.
No time limit. We've had clients reach out to us when they're, you know, later on in life, that they are, I don't know, 60-ish, 70, and they are wanting to get a promotion or something like that. And they're like, well, I applied for it, but my background, like I have a juvenile record and that's coming out. You know, and again, they were under the impression that this was going to get automatically sealed, which is, you know, rarely happens. And so, yeah, and so at that point, we're like, yes, absolutely, we can help you. Let's look into this. And we do that eligibility check. They're eligible, and we'll seal their record even, you know, way later on in life.
Marty, come on, you were about to say.
We had a discussion earlier this week or last week about a situation where you might have a juvenile record, but then you also have something that you're clearing on your adult record. What do you suggest is the process for that? You and I had this discussion, and I think it's good information to share.
Yeah, so if you are wanting to, you know, take care of your adult record, my recommendation is to first take care of your juvenile record, because you don't want that juvenile record to somehow prohibit you from being able to get that non-disclosure or that expunction of your adult criminal record, because those are more strict on their eligibility, whereas the juvenile records, again, are more comprehensive, more people are eligible. So you just don't want that to you know, to prohibit you from being able to get that adult offense record expunged or you know, sealed non-disclosure. So take care of that, you know, juvenile offense first. Reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you with that first, and then move forward with your non-disclosure or with your expunction of your adult record.
So in a situation where you have a juvenile record and an adult record that you want to have expunged, if you see, okay, they come to you, they apply with you, they get the juvenile record sealed, then who then do you refer them to for the adult expunges? And I guess we'll probably talk about that next week. I don't know why I asked, but
yeah, so we also take some adult expunctions and non-disclosures, but Houston volunteer
Where we come
lawyers
in.
take
That's who we
Okay.
a
confirmed.
bunch of those cases, and they help us out a lot with those. So
Okay.
yes,
And
so
all our juvenile records and juvenile sealing, as well as expungement of criminal records, we send it to Houston Volunteer Lawyers. We refer to them.
Okay. Now,
yes.
in because this is a service that is of no charge, do you recommend anybody to try to do this themselves? Because you know that there's a lot of, sidebar attorneys that are
Yeah,
out there.
I
Do you
no,
recommend that somebody
certainly
try to do this themselves?
I certainly don't. I mean, you just don't want to, if you're an attorney, we're more than happy to, you can reach out to us, and more than happy to provide you with guidance or even some more training on how to be able to adequately handle that, that sealing. But if you're not an attorney and you're just, someone trying to do this on their own without having an attorney by your side, then I just, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't advise that. It's certainly, you just don't want to make any mistakes, or again, listing the agencies is really important. And so if you miss one of those agencies that may have a copy of your juvenile record, and you do, file it and go through the process and actually get your sealing order, well, then in the future that agency may still be disseminating that juvenile record of yours. So you want to make sure that it's done adequately, that it's adequately sealed. That way you don't have those issues in the future. That way, if it's gone, it's gone.
So no do-it-yourselves.
No do-it-yourself.
All the experts.
Reach out to us, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Another question that I had, you said that it's best to make sure that you get a copy of all of the juvenile records before you get it sealed. What's the process for somebody to go through to get the copies of the juvenile records before it's sealed?
Yeah, so that's mostly my suggestion for anyone wanting to join the military, or even for if they're wanting to apply for any type of immigration benefit. It's always best to just have those records before the sealing. That way, if you are asked more questions about it, you can actually provide them, or if the military, if they require you to show copies, you can actually provide them. You can get these by going into the Harris County District Clerk's website and do a public records request, and you'll be able to get them that way. And if not, you can also call the Harris County Juvenile Probation Department. They should have a copy of all your records. And if it was in another county, reach out to that county's juvenile probation department.
So is that something that you all do as well? Like if you've got a client that's calling you or applying for your service, do you provide them with a copy of their records as well?
We can certainly assist them with obtaining those records.
Okay. I'm just wondering, like if it's somebody that's even perhaps in another state, but their record is back here. So you guys wouldn't be able to do that in another state, but at least they'll know where to go to get the copy.
Take care of it here. Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My last question, I was writing notes as you guys were going.
That's fine.
You said sealed juvenile records. When exactly, or how much information, if you said that for certain jobs or military, you have to say, I have a sealed juvenile record. Is there a limit as to how much information they are required to ask you about whatever the adjudication, the offense, or whatever it is? Like there's no violation for them to say, you got to tell me everything that happened, what you were charged with, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so those exceptions, again, to you being able to legally deny that any of this ever happened, is the federal government, immigration, and the military. And unfortunately, they can ask you
Whatever. Okay.
whatever. And that's because, again, the federal government, or federal agencies, they're not obligated to comply with this state sealing order, because it's different jurisdictions. So a state order will not have, is not binding on, federal jurisdiction. And so yeah, they could essentially ask you anything. But in my experience, and like I talked about that client with the FBI, it's a federal agency, and they complied with the order, because so they typically do comply, with these, even though they're state sealing orders, they typically do comply. But if you are, applying for some sort of job with the federal government or something like that, you unfortunately would have to say, I do have a sealed juvenile record, and they can choose to ask you more.
One more question I just thought about. So for these children that are trying to apply to go to school or something like that, does each learning institution have like different requirements or different, what's the leniency when it comes to particular juvenile records? So if you got a record, you apply for school, you get denied because of the record. Does that prohibit them then from applying to another school? Or is it pretty much the same across the board, that they all have the same kind of?
I think that would all depend on if it's a public school or a private. So if it's a private, I would imagine that they have, their own set of requirements and rules as to, who gets to get accepted if they apply. And if it's public, I mean, you are potentially risking that your juvenile record does come up if they do the background check. So best practice again is to get this sealed before. Yeah, you just don't want to, to have issues with this.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I think that was all the questions that I had.
I've got a question. When you're talking about juvenile age, I know when I was a juvenile, when I was 18, that was juvenile. Now it's 21, sometimes 24. When you're talking about a juvenile record, what's the age limit from what to what?
Yeah, so the statute defines a child, with the juvenile, as someone who is 10 years old or older up until 17. And in some cases, someone who's even 18 could still be considered a juvenile. So it does, specify that in the statute. But yeah, generally 10 to 17.
So if you are a juvenile a child between the age of 10 and 17, you're considered a juvenile.
Yes.
And then you can ask or request to seal that criminal record.
Yes.
So what about a child, say age 9? Then what are they considered to be, and what's that like, or what happened? I'm just asking because
that's a good question. That I was
looking at before, and the guy was like, I was so concerned about, looking at adults and who's going to rob me or whatever, not knowing that in that particular area, the kids that were 9, 10 years old were the ones that were committing a lot of the crimes. So when you're in that age bracket, what's that process, or what happens to them?
That's a really good question that I unfortunately I do not know what would happen with a younger child. We have not had those types of cases, but if you are in that situation, I'm again, reach out to us, and I'm more than happy to do some more digging on that and to see how we can help. I do know that some children, younger than 10, depending on the crime that or the offense that they commit, because for juveniles, it's called an offense, it's not a crime. In adults, it's, crime. So if it's a child younger than 10, depending on the offense, they may even be tried as an adult. It really depends on the situation, on the offense.
Wow. Okay. Are there any other questions? I've been kind of monopolizing. I'm sorry, but it was like the questions were kind of coming in as you were speaking. So are there any questions of any other participants that are here, or anybody watching the Facebook comments too, just to make sure? feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or what have you, and ask. But otherwise, thank you guys very much. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out this afternoon.
Of course.
You know that you've got plenty of cases that you could be working on right about now, as opposed
Yes.
to talking about us. So we thank you very much. This information is much needed in a lot of underserved communities that don't know where to go, that there is a service that's out there that's available to them that can do this at no charge. So thank you very much. Monty Carmen, thank you very much to you, and on behalf of the Houston Volunteer Lawyers and the Houston Bar, thank you guys very much for taking the time out this afternoon. So
No problem. Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Are there
All
any
right.
other questions? No one wants to mute before we leave, just to double check.
If there are any other questions, the document that Myra spoke of about the month of service referral program that we have, I'll be sending out a copy of that to you guys, as well as a copy of the link of this recording, so that you can go back and review it and see if there's more information that you may have forgotten, and certainly ask that you pay it forward and pass it along to somebody else that can find this information to be beneficial as well. Or if you want to go back and watch it on Facebook, it is on Amos Houston TX on Facebook. Feel free to watch it there, or on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you guys again very much. We hope you all have a wonderful remainder of your day. It's been a pleasure to meet you and to hear the information that you guys had to share.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. And really quickly, I do speak Spanish. So for any, Spanish speakers needing, these services as well, please, feel free to reach out to us, and I'm more than happy to help you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. You all have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.